beautiful. I've got my Breaker headset on.
Nice.
Yeah. No, this is Alpha Flight. They're a superhero team.
We're familiar.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Nobody from Halifax ever made the team, but Marina's from Newfoundland, so I guess that's close enough.
Something from North, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're pretty excited. It's really cool of you to come on here and kind of spend some minutes with us.
My pleasure.
We're very appreciative, and we're pretty excited because I've been listening to you, since I found Welcome to Cobra Island, and I got these guys exposed about a month ago, a little bit over a month ago. 2 months ago.
Yeah.
It was 2 months ago.
Yeah, Nick, you told me a couple years ago, and then we were on a trip together, and you put on Welcome to Cobra Island on our way to a comic book shop, which is very fitting.
Yeah. Rob's been harassing me about listening to your music for a very long time, and I'm like, I don't know, Rob. I don't know. And then I listened to it.
Scoreboard.
It's good. Yeah.
Always glad to hear. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
I just got my Rap Viper shirt too. That was phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah. Shout out my buddy Cody who drew that. So the same artist who drew the cover artwork for Welcome to Cobra Island. That's my pal Cody Peters, who we worked at a comic shop together for years. He drew the shirt logo as well. So he's super talented.
That's very cool. I just ordered a blue and red one too.
Oh, nice. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's a great design, and we'd like to support.
Shirt.
It's an awesome shirt.
It's an awesome shirt.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we just made them. We made a very small batch to start, and anyone who saw them was into them. And yeah, I'm just happy that we've been able to get them out to people. So thanks.
It's a great design, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Are you, speaking of your store, are you going to be doing any other albums on vinyl? Because I ordered the other day.
Should we say this for the actual podcast or the pregame?
Well, I got a recording. I'm going to edit it all in, man. We're good.
Yeah, is this? I mean, we could just do it raw. If this is the show, let's just do the show.
We goof off, man. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Perfect. That's literally what I do. So
all right.
Amazing.
Sorry for interrupting. My apologies.
No, I'm kidding. So, do you plan on releasing any of your other albums on vinyl?
Yeah, that's a dream for sure. I want to put every album I've made on vinyl, and the problem is money. Right now, actually, the vinyl plants are all super backed up. Right. So that's a whole other story going on, which is great that more people are getting vinyl, but it's bad because the big record companies are repressing stuff that nobody wants on vinyl, and they're backing up, the whole line is getting clogged all the way down. So it really affects all like the smaller indie artists and labels and stuff. But hey, whatever. We are actually, I guess I can talk about it now, going to be launching another vinyl crowdfunder for the MacGuffin device, which is going to be a selection of songs from Rhyme Your Business, because Rhyme Your Business, that's my album from 2018. Yep. It's a little too big to fit on one piece of wax. So instead of going the double vinyl route, we're going to do the MacGuffin device special edition featuring a couple extra little tracks. And then any tracks from Rhyme Your Business that don't make it onto this release are going to come out on some other stuff. Like there's a G.I. Joe theme track on there called Wrong Ralph Pulaski, which is a reference to one of my favorite, probably the best two-parter from the old Sunbow G.I. Joe series, Worlds Without End. And that's sort of part one of a story that I'm slowly unfolding. But anyways, I digress. But yes, and next year is the 10th anniversary of my album, Wordburglar. So I want to get that on vinyl as well. And if, the response to Cobra Island on vinyl was way better than I imagined, because honestly, it's selfish. Like I always joke around, I make my own, I make my albums so that I can get free copies, right? So I'm like, I got a copy. I kept a copy, and I love vinyl. And to me, that's like the ultimate way to just celebrate a record, right? I mean,
Right.
you know, there's more digital now. I'm a huge CD fan too, so everything I make is still going to continue to come out on CDs, but those are a bit more affordable to make, and vinyl is a huge undertaking. Plus, they're heavy. They're heavy to
They
ship.
are my
Very
gosh,
heavy.
They are
I'm
so heavy.
a huge physical media guy,
Me too.
and I have a bunch of records, and I still have a bunch of CDs. I know Rob still has a bunch of CDs, but to me, and especially with your albums, because a lot of thought and a lot of a lot of time goes into the artwork, and there's just nothing like putting on a record and sitting there and looking at the artwork, taking in the music. It's such a process that it doesn't take you away from the music. Because streaming, you can, you know what, I'm done with this song, I'm gonna go to the next one.
Right.
Sitting down and listening to it, you kind of have to take it all in, and it's such a much better experience for taking in music.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
for a lot of things, because even when you used to get a video game, you used to get the book, the instruction book.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that was the best feeling in the world. You pop that bad boy open and just kind of thumb through it.
Yep. I remember making the trips to Funko Land, buying my game, and then
Funko Land.
Yeah,
Wow.
and just reading the book in the back of the car. Like, so I was ready to go. I'm like, Mega Man can slide now? I'm pumped for this. Like, that was a big moment, right? Like,
you are referring to Mega Man 3, right? For the
yeah,
listeners at
Mega
home.
Man
Yes.
3, yes.
That was big move.
Yeah, it was.
Then you got the Charger, I think, was in 4, right?
The Mega Buster was in 4. Yeah, that's my favorite Mega Man, though, just for the record. I love Mega
Slept
Man.
on, highly underrated.
I love that one. Whew.
That's got Pharaoh Man, right?
Yep, Pharaoh Man is in that one. Skull Man is in that one. Oh, it's a great one. Toad Man is in that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 4 is really good. I went back and replayed all of them, and I remember being like really impressed. Like 4, 5, 6 are kind of the forgotten NES Mega Mans, I think.
Because it was right at the end, right?
Yeah.
The NES. Yeah, it was right at the end of the run.
Yeah, but no, Capcom always brought it home. Gave us a great G.I. Joe sequel too, right? The Atlantis Factor.
Atlantis Factor, yep.
Good little NES game.
Heck
And,
yeah.
I like the first one, which I think was Taxan did it, but
I don't remember, but the first one was better if I remember correctly.
yeah, the second one wasn't. It's interesting that Capcom took it over for the second game, but I'm sure there are Nintendo historians who know a little bit more about it than I do. But yeah, I like the first one. I like them both actually.
Yeah.
So good soundtracks too, actually.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Those early video game soundtracks are really underrated.
They really are. I know.
I mean, you were humming them back in the day when you didn't. Now a game comes out and you can stream or you can buy the soundtrack. It's curated. They have orchestras and everything. Back then it was beeps and boops, but you're still humming it at school.
Yeah.
Gosh, that Punch-Out theme to this day is still in my head. You know, like complete with the charge-up punch and everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they would always put their best track on level 1 because these games were so hard.
They're so friggin' hard.
No one can beat them.
Hardly anybody's getting past level 1. If you rent it, you're going to spend a weekend trying to get past level 1 or 2. So they always put their best tracks first.
I'm sure I almost killed our family dog trying to beat turtles. So yes, yeah.
Oh, the first one.
The first one was.
Forget about it. The underwater demolitions.
Oh my God.
That game is. I think I beat that, but somehow there's like another level where I could never pass, where you've got the turtle van is going around. It's like an overtop, and I could never find where you were supposed to go.
Oh, the correct
drove me crazy.
Area.
Yep.
I never got past that underwater level. I just gave up.
Yeah,
I think I have PTSD from that.
Yeah,
from that friggin' game.
Yeah, we all have underlying anxiety, and it all stems from the same place.
It's the same 8-bit games.
It's the water level on the NES.
Someone should write a paper about that, like some psychologist. They make a lot of money.
Yeah, they're all doing papers, and they're all they're all skipping this one thing that's at the root of all of it.
Yeah. Nintendo.
So really
but it helped you. It gave you made you patient, right?
It did.
I don't know about
Well, here's the thing, man. Those controllers were durable because I beat the crap out of my Nintendo controller on like the side of my bed, and like I destroyed that thing. You drop an Xbox or a PS5 controller now, like they're shattered, man.
They're done.
They're done. They're not gonna last.
Those things are built like classic cars.
They really are. Yeah.
I was just talking to someone yesterday about the Hiss tank from G.I. Joe. Just like they still are sturdy. The original Hiss tanks, when you find them, like a lot of those some of the plastics broke and stuff. But anyways,
yeah. Was bad. All right. So I have a couple quick questions for you before I'm going to turn it over to these guys. They got the series of the questions, but my big one is, I don't know if you've listened to our podcast, but we've started affectionately calling you Mr. Burglar.
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Just so you know, so we've called you Mr. Burglar. We've also called you Dr. Burglar because you're the burglar of words. So just so you know, we might accidentally call you Mr. Burglar today.
All right. Well, nobody ever calls me Mr. anything. So appreciate it. Yeah.
We're first.
We're first.
Manners is a lost art.
You know, my big question for you, and you guys might have it, but I'm kind of curious when you started rapping when you were younger, when did you realize you had something special going for yourself? When did you realize you could do something with this?
My friends just always would ask me to rap.
Yeah.
I kind of kept it secret. Like I would make these little tapes with my cousin who is like a music. Shout out my cousin Joe, who among many things got me into all kinds of great music and comic books and stuff. But he was a super talented musician, and he was a bit older and would record me at his place with like his 4-track, and we'd make these little tapes, and he'd get me to rap because I just like to rhyme, and I would rap and I listened to rap, and I was really into like early days Run DMC and Fresh Prince and even like MC Hammer. I mean, you laugh at it, but like if you were a kid, like MC Hammer was pretty accessible rap.
Oh gosh,
and I remember this girl I knew. We were super young, and I guess her family was kind of religious, but like she had MC Hammer and they loved the song. MC Hammer had this song called Pray. You've got to pray just to make it today. And like, so she had the MC Hammer album. So we used to listen to it at her house all day. And it was like, anyways, I always forget to give Hammer props, but you got, but like, Run DMC, Fresh Prince, all that stuff. And I just would always like rap and just write my little rhymes and didn't think about it. And I would like mess around with like a bad tape deck from Radio Shack, and just my friends would always be like, oh, and I could like rap lyrics to other songs like the Ninja Turtles movie song, or like Maestro Fresh West, who is a huge, I don't know if you know Maestro, but he's like basically like the Rakim of Canada. He's like a rap superstar icon. He's like the first Canadian rapper to really blow up and really put Canada on the map for hip hop in the late 80s. Anyways, like I would just like rhyme his rhymes and like stuff like that. And and it was just kind of, my friends just kind of always encouraged me, and I just always loved doing it. And I never really thought about like that it would get as big as it has kind of become for me, but at the same time I never ever thought that I wouldn't do it, because I just love doing it. And I'm always just trying to get better and just keep, I listen to new rap every day, and I'm always checking for new stuff. Like I just love the art form so much, and I love what can be done with it, especially on like from an independent level and an underground level, and all the everything you could do. You could talk about nerdy stuff, you could talk about politics, you can talk about party rock, and you can talk about food. It's educational, it's political, it's everything. I certainly have like my lanes that I like to do, which is definitely more like the fun, nerdier, old school rap, like but I just love it. Anyways, so it was a very long answer.
That's
a great answer.
I think the one thing that roped these two in mostly is the old school feel to
yes,
your music.
absolutely.
It's just there's something nostalgic but fresh about it, which I think was really got what these guys involved.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I love your flow and your rhymes and the way you structure the songs, but the beats feel timeless.
Yes.
Like they don't, like it feels like a I guess I'm just trying to say, it feels like a traditional hip hop beat, and the album could have come out 2 weeks ago or 2 decades ago, and it would still sound the same. And to me, that's incredibly important, because as time goes by, when music ages, if you're not careful, it can age you out of listeners.
Right.
And your music does feel timeless. Like I can listen to it at any time. I would have listened to it at any time ever.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. And, I got to shout out like the beat makers that I work with, because I dabble in beat making, but it's really, I work with pro beat makers that I've been from day one, like Beat Mason and Fresh Kills and Timbuktu and Mr. E and just Peter Project. Oh my God. I'm going to start naming guys, but like we've kind of crafted a sound, and that's like the sound, definitely the sound that I like from what I've been trying to go for is what I work on. And I'm very hands-on. I dig for samples, I find stuff, and basically like I'll be like the armchair, backseat driver, just be like, all right, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. But then a lot of the times the producers, like now we've worked so well together for so long, we know kind of the sound, and they're like, all right, this is like, and they'll message me, like Beat Mason will be like, I made this beat, I think this is, yours for you. And it's like, yes, man, this is so, but yeah, I've been very, very lucky to work with the same team. And I've worked with the same people since I started, really, like independently. Like, yeah, I used to make my own beats, but then I worked with people who were just way better at doing it. So I have an understanding of how they're made, but I focus more on the rhymes. So yeah. But
that would
thank
be
you.
the equivalent of me saying, I understand how rap works, but you don't want to hear me rap.
No, you really don't.
That's a really good point.
He's going to sing at some point. And it's going to be painful.
No, I won't sing today. I promise.
There's a mute feature somewhere in here.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. You guys got some questions? You had some questions. I know you did.
Yeah, we got to go ahead.
I guess I just want to kind of follow up with Nick. You're part of you're my favorite part of what's called nerdcore hip hop. And how do you feel about being in that group? Because I don't know, like Weird Al is kind of like an influence, and like they might be giants and all but I feel like they don't get the credit they deserve. They're incredibly crafty geniuses, especially Weird Al. Right. I will stand on the mountaintop and tell you that Weird Al is the single most underrated musical artist that possibly has ever been.
That's a
because he not only
that is controversial.
Yeah, I don't think it is at all.
I would second that for sure.
I mean, his parodies are great.
Yeah,
but his original songs and his he does these like style samples, these sampler tracks where he kind of mimics everyone's style.
Like the Hamilton polka he does.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I feel like because he's kind of nerdy, and he does these parodies where kind of similar to where you do, you have a lot of things that aren't nerd culture songs. Do you feel like the nerdcore side of you takes away from the more traditional where you're talking about, just life or things that are on your mind side?
Yeah, that's a great question. First to the Weird Al, I love Weird Al so much. Absolutely. And the fact that he basically signed a contract that the music labels thought was a joke. Like that's a whole other story for people who don't know. Look up that whole story of how Weird Al basically like fulfilled his, I think it was something like 10 major label albums he signed a deal for. And the label was like, no one would ever do this, especially for parody music. And he did it, and he completed his contract. And now he's like doing his own thing. And I got so much love for Weird Al. Yeah. I got to play Weird Al in a video by Cybertronic Spree. Actually, they did a remake of Dare to Be Stupid. So if you haven't seen that video on YouTube, check it out. And I'm one of the Weird Als. I get thrown out of a door during the I Lost on Jeopardy scene. But definitely that's by Cybertronic Spree, or some good friends of mine, some good robo friends of mine.
Well, I'm gonna go right there after this.
As for your question about the nerdcore thing, I've been doing my thing forever, really, like since I was a kid, long before I ever heard of nerdcore. I was trying to sample Nintendo games. I was rapping about Spider-Man and Star Trek and G.I. Joe. Like nerdcore is amazing, and I've met some of like the greatest people, like some of my closest friends, Mega Ran and MC Frontalot. Like it's amazing, and Frontalot really coined the phrase nerdcore. And the thing about Mega Ran and Frontalot too, real quick, they're very serious rappers. So the thing that I think any of us kind of maybe get a little nervous about is when they don't take the art seriously. Like for me, I'm always like, great, call it nerdcore, call it whatever you want to call it. To me, I'm a rapper first. If you want to categorize me as like underground or backpack or alternative or weird or nerdcore, that's great. Like whatever works for you. Like everyone needs their own little, okay, what's my intro point? Okay, like here, this guy is nerdcore. So I don't mind. And I certainly, definitely if I make a track called, whatever, welcome to Cobra Law, and, people are, or, I don't want to go to Cobra Law or whatever, like I'm getting my own titles messed up trying to answer this. Right. But yeah, like I'm always going to just do the songs I want to do. And that's to me what hip hop has always been. In music, it's just like, be who you are. Like, I don't want to front on who I am. If I'm going to make a song about the Hoojibs because I remember the Hoojibs when I was a kid, but nobody else does. It's driving me crazy that I'm talking to people about the Hoojibs and no one's ever heard of the Hoojibs. Right. Or I want to drop like Marauder Moes in a rhyme. People are like, what are Marauder Moes? Like, those are the action figures that the Ferengi collected. In Star Trek, it's one of the few times there's been like action figure collectibles. So as a guy who likes action figures, of course, I'm going to remember the Star Trek action figure line. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's the kind of stuff where it's like, I would always make these rhymes for me and my friends. And now within the nerdcore context and the bigger context of how things are, it's great that I can meet people like yourselves and other people who get it, right? Like you're wearing a Castlevania shirt. I'm like, instantly, we could just spend the whole podcast talking about, Aria of Sorrow versus Symphony of the Night versus, Alucard's first appearance in Castlevania 3 and Dracula's Curse. And, like I'm huge Castlevania. Like, I love it. Like that's my game. I love it. The USS Flag. Anyways, again, a really long answer. So I'll zip it.
Yeah, we're here for it.
No, we're here for it.
And going to Joe's point, so you have the nerdcore stuff that you do, right? But then a song like Point of Departure, which I left that song speechless, to be honest with you. It was an emotional song, and you're able to balance things like the real Ralph Perlatsky. If you didn't know G.I. Joe, you didn't know that was a G.I. Joe song. And then all of a sudden, you go from song to song. If you haven't heard Point of Departure.
I have.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Love that song. That is one of my favorite songs now. It still leaves me speechless. I don't even know how to articulate it, but it's an emotional song, and I dig the hell out of it. And then you got something like Bill Mosienko that could be a nerd song, but really there's a message behind it. I just dig it, man. I dig how you kind of walk that line.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And every song I make, I just try and make the best song. Like, that's what I'm working on. I'm like, what is the best way to do this song? And that's what I try and do. And yeah, I mean, I'm really glad. And those are all completely different songs that you mentioned. And I'm glad you like it. Yeah. Point of Departure was that song took me a long time to write because I had to get it right before I recorded it. And
you did.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
It's you were going for to peak that emotional, and I'm big into things that can bring emotion out of me.
Yeah.
Shit. My bad.
You can swear.
My
no
bad.
One's gonna
well, Cobra Island brought a different kind of emotion out of me, but then you hear a song like Point of Departure, and you're like, wow. And I just really kind of like what you do, how you balance it all into one album, one or multiple genres into one little part. It's really good, man. I just give you all the props in the world. Man,
I'm honored. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you're listening. So thank you. That means a lot.
And as a dad, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I don't let my kids listen to very much because there's not much they can listen to to my standard. Early on, but you do mostly clean music for the most part, especially later than earlier.
Yeah, I think 2012 up, things get a bit cleaner.
So we were listening to your song in the car one day, and there's a reference towards Catwoman, and I did not catch it until afterwards. And I was like, oh, crap. But ever since, then it's been relatively clean. It's something I can be comfortable listening to with my kids. What made you decide to do that? Well,
just the older you get, the more just writing. To me, it was more like it wasn't so much a conscious choice to become clean. And I'll still, every now and then, it's kind of like what the song requires. But also, I feel like I love the English language so much. There are so many other words. So after you write or you hear somebody dropping F-bombs a million times or whatever, it's like, that's too easy.
Right.
It's just like, it's harder to not swear. So I kind of like that challenge. And I started just kind of doing it to myself, where I was like, I think the first time I did it, I was like, oh, this whole song, and I don't need to swear at all. And then I keep going. And then it's just kind of like, now I almost feel like if I'm dropping, like if you hear me swear on a song, which I don't know the last time I did it, but it's there for a reason. Like I think on MacGuffin device, there's an explicit version where can we swear on the podcast, or I don't know.
Go for
I
it.
mean, whatever. I say, opinions are like assholes. I don't want yours.
Yeah.
There was like, I needed to say assholes for that line.
Right.
But, in another case, I'd rather say, gosh, flip it, or like, because it's just more interesting. And I think it makes your ears perk up as a listener too, when you're like, oh, what? And because I don't care, I don't need to prove anything by swearing or not swearing.
Right.
But it's funny though, you ask, I'm kind of debating, because I have a new song on my next album that has one word that I don't think is a swear word, but some people might think it is. So I don't know. I mean, I'll put it.
Are we allowed to ask the word?
You can.
Yeah, sure. Is calling someone a dick, is that a bad thing?
It depends on the person, I think.
You could say dick on the radio, can't you?
Can you?
Yeah, you can.
I think you can.
Under the context, I think it matters what the context is.
Yeah, if I'm calling you dick because that's your name.
But if you're referring to a human body part, then you can't do it. Like it gets bleeped, which is really weird. Should be the other way, I would think, if anything.
Whoever names a dick is a dick.
Well, I mean, in this particular case of the song, I don't, you'll hear when the song comes out, but it just, that word works best for that.
Yeah.
I can't replace it with jerk. Like I could, but it's just, anyway. So these are the things. Yeah, it's just kind of like it's like, no, a dick is different than a jerk.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like that guy's a dick.
Yeah, that's a lot stronger.
That's different than that guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
I can deal with jerks.
Yeah.
But dicks, I can't deal with.
So yeah, I guess if it's like, I need to find the perfect word for whatever that sentiment is.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I think a lot about this stuff.
No, I appreciate it. Because my wife and I get in the debate a lot about swearing in the kids, and I say there are better words to use than swear words. That's why
your wife would disagree with you.
Yeah, she swears like a sailor.
Yeah, she does.
But there's better words to use, and I just be more creative and think about something other than used than just dropping, and I slip up. I'm not perfect, by far from it. But there's better things to say than that, and that's why I don't really want to say that around my kids.
Yeah, but I like this idea that you don't come to that approach from a sense of self-righteousness, like, oh, people don't need to hear these words are bad, because words are just words, right? That we give them the power we give them, and so I really appreciate the fact that it's not like I can't say this word because it's going to harm the child, right?
Yeah.
And instead it's more, I want to use different words because let's challenge ourselves. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's make some unique music that no one else has done.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got something?
I
know you've been quiet. I got tons of stuff.
But yeah, to that point, then the people listening who go check out my discography pre-2012, and I do feel bad because I do meet people with kids who are sometimes like, I got your album, and I have warned parents, who have bought like previous albums, like, by the way, this album from 2006. Some of these rhymes I wrote, I was pretty young, and FYI, you might want to put on earmuffs for the kids. I don't know, because I wouldn't want to turn off a listener, and then like maybe the kids can like listen to that album later. Nothing like crazy, but like, when you're 19 and you're out partying with your friends and you're just having fun and you're recording rap songs at 3 a.m, you wind up swearing.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And you just released a music video, correct?
Yeah. Living Between Wednesdays, which just shot at a local comic shop here in Toronto called The Sidekick. And I'm a huge comic book fan, lifelong fan.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Do you have a pull list there? Is it
actually
go-to comic shop?
I have about 3 go-to comic shops, so I kind of pick stuff up everywhere. Right now, my like pull list I get from Strange Adventures, which is my old shop in Halifax where I grew up, and so they have been kind, especially during the pandemic when things have just been. I live in Toronto now, but I grew up in Halifax on the east coast of Canada, and Toronto was under lockdown constantly, almost for like 16 months, give or take, like on and off, and Strange Adventures was like coming through and delivering me. I'd get a big box comics every month. So that's kind of my pull list. I'm reading, I read a lot of the stuff I read when I was a kid. So I still love Spider-Man and G.I. Joe and Batman and stuff. And then I always like to check out new series and see what's going on with like, whatever Image is doing, or I like stuff from whatever, First Second. My buddy Mike just put out a great book from First Second, Mike Holmes, who's done a lot of artwork on my books. And I have it right here. Since we're on video, My Own World from First Second, big plug for Mike Holmes. Okay. He worked on Bravest Warriors and Adventure Time, the comics. And this is just a beautiful, beautiful book. And most comic shops should have it from First Second. So that's good. And Dave Howlett just released The Makers issue 2. So if any comic book listeners are out there, and right now I think you can only order that from strangeadventures.com or get it from Dave Howlett, who is Paschetti Western on Instagram. And that's an awesome comic, especially if you're fans of like the 90s Image explosion, and just he's exploring like characters who are essentially like the Image founders, but it's almost like a what if they got, picked up by aliens. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but it's really, really good. The Makers by Dave Howlett. So anyway, those are my plugs. Grab them.
I like the shameless plugs. I
Are you
dig
writing
it.
this down for us?
Oh yeah, I got it written down.
All right.
Yeah,
Come on now.
We got comic shops around here we need to hit.
You guys.
Yeah.
This is great. I feel like we're just hanging out, and
I love it. Yeah, we're gonna nerd out as long as you let us. So be careful.
We haven't even talked about any Cardassians yet. I mean, what is this podcast?
If we don't, our listener will be mad.
So you did another video for your friend's brother, or my friend's brother.
I love that video. I love that song.
Oh my God, it's great. But you did it at an arcade bar, right? Are there more around there? Because we have a few here in Detroit, and they're really the best. The arcade bars was whoever started that trend of
great idea
of putting the old arcade machines in with like a bar, or sometimes you get like a pizzeria or something. It is the perfect like nostalgia hole in the wall, and I could spend hours there. Is that near you? Are there others around? Because they've kind of blown up here in Detroit a little.
Yeah, so that's Z80, and it started originally. There was one called Tilt, and then they kind of exploded. Z80 is amazing, and they'll do stuff where you just pay a cover, and then it's free play once you're inside, which is just like genius.
That's phenomenal.
That's
and then you got more money to grab a cold drink of your choice and whatever, right? Like the one problem I have with all the arcade bars in Toronto, no one's got that G.I. Joe game by Konami, the 4-player game. That's a hard one to find, man.
I've never played that game, and it gnaws at me that I've never played that game.
Yes, I've never even seen that game.
I have never seen it either.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's infuriating because I want to play this so bad.
It's amazing. It's a run and gun, and you're just the screen's scrolling at you, and like cobras are flying. But it's crazy because it came out towards the end of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, like that, like 92, 93, I think it came out, because the toy line ended 94. And it was like weirdly tied into like the Deke cartoon, which was terrible. Yes. And
straight up terrible.
Like, it's heartbreaking for me to say that, but it was. Yeah. And anyways, it's a strange, but it's really good. And Konami did it. And it's just like the artwork designs are like inspired by the old Sunbow cartoons, but it's like newer characters and new, like Snake Eyes is in his like blue and gray outfit that came out right before Ninja Force. I don't know how deep into Joe you are, so I won't.
Very deep into it.
Okay, sweet. I love the flag, but sometimes you never know. There seems to be like a drop off on G.I. Joe where some people are like drop off around 87, 88. And then some people stuck around.
There's some snottiness in the G.I. Joe community.
Yep.
So
there's a lot of Sunbow elitists.
Yes, and there's a lot of Marvel elitists and so on. So I love the Marvel. I still have the whole Marvel run in my closet right there. And
it's the best.
You see number 21's right there.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yep.
I've got a poster there. I don't know if you can see it. If it's on video.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's when I worked at the Snail. We had him in for a comic book signing.
I think I remember hearing that story. I think when you were on one of your podcasts, you were mentioning talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think when you're doing the letter from Snake Eyes.
Yeah. So I met Larry years ago when I worked at Silver Snail Comics, which was great.
So how was working at a comic book store? I've always wanted to do this, but obviously I can't do it now.
You can always start. You never know.
Yeah, it's true.
We need more good shops. That's one thing, you know.
Yes,
the
sir.
good shops that are still around. Shout out every local comic shop that's like great from coast to coast, and because we need more of them, and they've definitely become great community hubs. You know, you see them expanding. There's a great one in Florida actually.
Yes.
A comic shop with Geekeasy, and they have an arcade bar in the back. So we're talking about that, which is kind of like the perfect thing. Because when you go into these places, I almost want there to be like a spinner rack of, back to the arcade bars. And you got a spinner rack of comics, and then you got like all your bad candy and stuff. You just get that full, like, let me be 7 again.
Heck yeah. We were in Florida not long ago, and we found 2 comic book shops there. And I don't remember their names now, but they were phenomenal. And one was the most organized comic book store I've been to in my entire life.
It was unbelievable.
It was the prettiest thing I've ever seen.
I mean, for a bookstore, it was organized.
Yes.
Not just comics, but for a store in general, it was perfectly organized. And I mean, a lot of comic book shops, you'll go in, and they're, a lot of them lack some organizational skills. But the feeling you get when you go in there, this had both. Like, it felt like a great comic book shop, but it was super easy to navigate, and everything was like where you would want it to be.
They had these nice drawers that you pulled out for back issues.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. It was not the other shop, that's for sure.
Nice reference. We had that at Silver Snail, the drawers, and that was a dream. Anyways, working at the comic shop. I worked at Strange Adventures in Halifax when I was in high school, and I was basically like a kid who just hung out at the store all day after school. I had a paper route, and I would spend my paper route money at the comic book store. It was like I was, to use a tired phrase, I was living the dream, right? You're making all this. I had free rent living at home with my mom and dad, and I had a paper route with all the cash so I could buy all the comics and rap records I wanted, right? And I just hung out at Strange Adventures, and the owner, Cal, who's the best, who's like family to me, he offered me a job, and I got to work there and met so many great people and just learned so much. And the best thing about a comic shop, I mean, you do get to meet people, and you really learn an appreciation for, just about everything, right? So even if I wasn't into like magic cards, right? You learn about magic, and I'd pick up stuff and understand why people love it so much. Or if there's comics I didn't like that was just a great experience. So it's like when people come in like, oh, I never read Thor sucks. Thor speaks in this weird, Shakespeare language all the time. Like, you know what? Have you ever seen the Walt Simonson Thor? Blah, blah, blah. This you might be up here, or like you understand why people like it. And I know that seems like a kind of a basic observation, but it was true. So I would learn to like not, I never wanted to hate on someone. Like, if you're reading comics that I don't like, I don't care. If you love these comics, that's great. I'm not going to judge you. And that was just a big thing. And so Strange Adventures was great because Cal would bring in every kind of comic. So of course you had your Marvel, DC, Image, that stuff, but like all the indie and underground stuff. So I got to learn, I got introduced to like Dan Clowes, who now is kind of like a household name, but I never heard of like 8-Ball and like, all the Evan Dorkin stuff I got exposed to, and just like all the underground black and white comics, Box Office Poison and Minimum Wage. I'm just Chester Brown, like just all this great stuff that you never would have found. And that's where comic shops really supporting that underground market of comics, where it's really gain an appreciation for the whole art form of comics outside of just the superheroes that everybody knows about, right? Which I still love. And so there are certainly shops that can get snobby too. And they're like, oh, we don't carry superheroes. Like, why not? Superheroes are great. They should be on the shelf next to Palookaville or whatever. I don't know. Great indie book, Mouse, you've got like Art Spiegelman with Jack Kirby, like those are contemporary, like those are both like visionaries, right? And anyways, I get passionate about comics.
I dig it.
Absolutely.
Well, I get that
Yeah.
because one of my biggest complaints with comic book stores is if you are new to it, if you are new to that and you're trying to branch out into comics, it can be a very intimidating landscape to walk into. So like you mentioned, like, why don't you have the superhero comics? Superhero comics are great to have because it's a great entryway point for someone, right? To help them gain a passion so they can go deeper than that. Which is, they were mentioning that store we went to that was organized so well. To me, if I was new to comics and I walked into that, that's what I want. Of course, if you're a hardcore comic book fan and you want just your people there, you probably do like the more dingy areas where everything's just stacked up and you're kind of sorting through them. But it can be a very intimidating culture to break into.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what you mentioned, the other shop, which is a song of mine. And we all know the other shop because they are real. And that other shop song is like 3 shops combined into one, like all based on like actual experiences. Of course, I take a bit of creative license, but but we all know like that's a real place, right? So
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was the shop closest to my house as a kid, so I had to go to the shop all the time.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry.
It's rough, man.
Yeah.
I have nightmares from that place.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I got in like a fight I was a kid and like, anyways, I had Spawn on my pull list and he had pulled, this is such a silly, nerdy thing that I'm about to share. I don't know if I've ever talked about this. And I had Spawn, the just basic Spawn. Right. But if you know comics, there was also like, Curse of the Spawn or Medieval Spawn. Like, so there were these spin-off books. And they were like $3, $4, whatever, and it adds up. And you're a kid, you don't get to the comic shop every month. So I showed up, and there's like a big stack of comics. I'm like, what are all these? I just get Spawn and Spider-Man. I don't need all these.
Oh no!
Message him real quick. Hit pause. Welcome back.
Technology.
Yo,
Hey, we're back.
That's my computer's way of saying, stop talking already.
Did you build your own computer or you buy it?
No, yeah, a buddy of mine built it, but it was just choosing to reboot. It was just like, some window popped up and I just clicked, get out of here. And then next thing I know, it's like rebooting. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So
see, I don't know if you listen to our show, but our last episode, we had to record 3 times because this cord situation underneath our desk kept like going out. So the power went out to the board and we lost everything for twice.
Each time, yeah.
So that sucks.
So we hadn't recorded in 3 weeks together, and we were all excited to be back with each other recording. And then by the 3rd time, we're like, "All right, let's just get this over with."
We're sick of your face.
I want to go home.
But then now we're interviewing someone, and of course something happens, and immediately I thought it was our fault. I'm like, we screwed up again.
Yeah.
Jeez, can't do anything right.
Yeah.
Technology gives and it takes away, right?
Yes,
So
it does.
Yes, sir.
It does.
This is great that we get to meet and chat like we're hanging out in a basement about to crack some Doritos and play some RPGs, but
Box.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, no Doritos near the long box.
No.
Don't get orange fingerprints on my Guardians of the Galaxy.
I have a buddy who refuses to eat Doritos with anything but a toothpick. That's the only way he'll eat them.
Because of his fingers?
Like Doritos and like Cheetos and all those things. So he doesn't want to get the stuff on his fingers. So
he knows.
And he worships Satan, right?
Yeah.
He's aware that soap exists, right?
I don't know what to tell you. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
I think it's here and there.
It's here and there. There you go.
So the age-old question when it comes to comic books: preference, Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
I figured because in your songs it kind of shows a little bit more.
Yeah, it's funny. I love DC, but I did grow up reading Marvel. Like I pretty much taught myself to read off Spider-Man comics.
Yeah.
And I just always we're probably from around the same era, but comic spinner racks at gas stations and corner stores and the grocery store, that's where I got all my comics, and you get them out of order and you didn't know what was going to come out, what came out when. Anyways, for the most, I was always into the Marvel comics, and it wasn't until a bit later that I got into DC. And shout out my cousin Joe. It might have been because of him, because he was obsessed with Marvel, so he had stacks of like Secret Wars and Daredevil, like the Frank Miller Daredevil and Spidey's, and all this stuff that he was just like, read these, and I just got hooked. And I'd go to the corner store and always get Marvel, but I always loved Batman, Superman, and Flash. And then I got into like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and, the Justice League, like all the stuff that, Maguire did, and all the Giffen comics. And like, there's so many, J.M. DeMatteis, when they did that whole reboot of Justice League with Batman and Guy Gardner, and like, that stuff's hilarious. And like, the artwork's incredible. But no, sorry. Short answer, Marvel.
When people ask me, I say Batman, and then they go, no, Marvel or DC. I go, Snake Eyes. They go, Marvel or DC.
I think you're on record as a
more of a DC fan. Yep.
To me,
not in the movies though.
No,
movies. Yeah.
No, I think DC has stubbed their toes so many times that they're still recovering. But for me, I think DC has two of my favorite characters of all time in Batman and Superman. But I think Marvel has the deeper roster.
That's fair.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. DC dries up after about 7 or 8. I don't want to insult that. It's not true. DC has so many great characters, but you're talking about inaccessible stuff we were talking about earlier, like going to a comic shop and like, I don't know what to look at. Right. Like DC almost felt a bit inaccessible. Like I was kind of coming at it when I was a kid. It would have been like post-crisis and like trying to figure out like what was what, and you'd find old ones and there's all these different versions of Flash. I knew in Marvel, you just had Peter Parker. I mean, now there's 20 different Spider-Mans running around at least. Yeah, everybody's got like 500 versions of them, right? And look, in the last like 20 years, I've probably read an equal amount of Marvel DC. Like I read everything.
Right.
Like I do love DC a lot. And
that's why I tell everybody why DC is my preference. Just give me a good book. That's all I want.
Good comic books.
Exactly.
I've never understood people who have to side with either one and trash the other one, because they're both different forms of art, and people approach them from different angles and contexts. And
like I love Captain America. That's a great character. Yeah. So it's a Marvel. I don't care. Give me something good.
It's that team mindset though. Like this is my team, and if it's not my team, then your team is bad, my team is good.
Kind of like the console wars, right?
Yeah, it's always been like that. Sony, console, like we all know politics. It's all like that. Yeah,
Nintendo or Sega. That was a big.
It's always been.
That's right.
I was a Sega.
Nintendo,
I was a Sega kid.
Nintendo, man.
Nintendo.
Yeah, but Sega does what Nintendo don't. So
Sega was bad, man. Sega was bad. Nintendo. Nintendo was good, but Sega was bad.
Yeah, they were.
Sonic and the Speed.
They played off of that, man. They went for it big time.
Yeah, that's I got a new song on the new record about that. But that's,
really,
which record it comes out on, I don't know, because I've got like 3 different records coming out. But there is a Sega song. I love Nintendo, but it was the joke that like Sega felt bad. Yeah, it was like, oh, I know a kid who's got a Genesis. Yeah. Oh man, like that's like the people barely wear any clothes in their games, right? Know, right? Altered Beast is just like naked dudes fighting in a graveyard. It's like what? No wonder Mom didn't want you to have one, because Sega Genesis was so bad, son.
Oh man, I love Altered.
Yeah, Altered Beast, bunch of naked dudes fighting in a graveyard. That's why your mom didn't want you to play it.
That was a hard game too. That was hard. And they had 3 buttons on their controller. They didn't just have an A and B, man.
Wasn't that was a packing game too?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't it? I believe Altered Beast like the packing.
Yeah.
So right out of the gate, they're like, "Here you go. Here's what you can expect from us for the next 8 years."
Sonic wasn't packed in.
Later it was.
It later was. Yeah.
But they got really smart.
Yeah.
And gave out because it'll hook you.
Yeah.
Now you need more games.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
No, the choice was as easy as A, B, C.
That's right.
There you go.
Or X, Y, A, B, right?
X, Y, yeah.
No.
And now
Super Nintendo is my number 1. That's
Super Nintendo.
Yeah. I love 8-bit NES, of course, always, but 16-bit SNES is like I got love for that system.
The library of games is just unmatched for that era.
Yeah, I agree that the SNES was like the dream, but the PlayStation 1 changed my life when Metal Gear came out. And Psychic Manus was reading your memory card, and you had to change. Oh man, That changed
Yeah.
my life.
I've been playing a lot of PS1 during the pandemic. It's been a pandemic S1. Yeah. I was playing Final Fantasy VIII last night.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So good.
It's the one I never beat. From
Really?
1 to 9, 8 was the one that when I played it, when it came out, it turned me off, man. I was like, and I love 9. 9 is so great. And anyways, but 8, it's okay. I have my issues with it. Man, we're covering a lot of ground here.
We're covering our cause.
And we haven't even talked about G.I. Joe really yet.
We'll get there, don't worry.
And we haven't talked about Star Trek
important
yet. I mean, we got some stuff to talk about.
You're going to have to make this like a cliffhanger, like, with the
episodes.
Borg. Yeah. Split it up.
Yeah. Who's Picard? We got to figure that one out.
Best of both worlds, baby. It's going to be great.
Joe is a Star Trek virgin. When we started doing this podcast, introduced him to Star Trek through Deep Space Nine, actually.
Yep.
So he doesn't know much about Picard yet.
I really don't know any. I mean, I know.
You've seen Star Trek 2.
I have seen Star Trek 2, so I have that in my roster. I mean, I can write a short resume, but I Deep Space Nine, the first, however far we're like 7 episodes
Season
into
4.
the 4th season.
Yeah.
So I have that and maybe 2 or 3 of the original episodes, and I'm aware of its presence in nerd culture and pop culture. But beyond that, I never had, like Nick was saying earlier about getting into comics and stuff. Star Trek, their fandom and the universe that it has built is so vast that if you weren't grandfathered in, it is very intimidating, and I didn't know where to start. There's no like, okay, here's Star Trek 101. Here's where you should start. It's like, here's all of this Star Trek.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Find your way through this.
Yeah.
And you could choose poorly.
Yeah.
If you don't know which door to open.
That's 100% true.
You can choose poorly and start a Star Trek show that has "It's been a long road."
Oh, God, so he's gonna sing. I told you.
From there to here. Yeah.
I know Joe has a question he wants to ask, so let's get
to that question first, and then we'll dive into
your master's.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So you told me that you haven't seen Snake Eyes. So
not yet, but I think it just got an early release or something, an early digital release.
This Friday, right?
Like, the digital release came out Tuesday.
Tuesday,
They
yesterday.
pushed it out, yeah.
So I'll be honest, somebody gave me a bootleg copy of it, because I have great people who know I love G.I. Joe, and if they get stuff and it's like, I know you can't go see this, here you go. It was recorded in a theater in Korea or something. I don't know. And it's like, you can, anyways, I watched the first 5 minutes and I couldn't believe it. I felt like there's a Seinfeld episode where I think Kramer's got a buddy who's bootlegging movies and Jerry gets roped into it. And that's what I felt like I was watching. I was shot by Jerry Seinfeld. So anyway, so I watched the first 5 minutes. So I'm going to watch. I will watch it, but I have not seen it yet.
So we're not going to talk that. But did you watch the Masters of the Universe Revelation, the 5-part?
I got the first 2 parts down. I haven't had a chance to finish it yet.
Okay, I finished it. It's amazing.
I loved what I saw. I loved it.
It's really good. I'm really impressed with what Kevin Smith did, where he took this lore in this universe, and instead of rebooting it and kind of cleaning up the old stories, he took what we love about these characters and he put a new spin, but it still drags on that nostalgia and drags on everything everything that I personally came to it wanting. And then he gave us a brand new story that felt fresh, and it felt it felt like the old stories, but in a fresher way. Have you ever considered? I know that you've mentioned some things here and there in some of your songs about characters or things about Masters of the Universe. Have you considered a Cobra Island-esque type of concept album for Eternia?
Yeah, Eternia is so far away. It takes a long time to get there, right?
Oh, yeah,
so
nice.
Cobra Island at least is on this planet. I got to travel through all space and time to get.
Well, I mean, your last album was Space Verse, so maybe you're traveling there now.
Maybe.
I think I figured it out. Never mind. Scrap that question. I figured it out.
I got a lot of love for Masters of the Universe, and yeah, I think there'll at least be something. I mean, it's it's just when the thing hits that it's like, yeah, that's. I always kind of need that thing that like unlocks, and it's like that's the entry point that I want to do, and I have a few ideas. Like Cobra Island really wrote itself and just kept growing, and I could have done like 50 tracks because G.I. Joe was kind of always my number one, but I loved everything else, especially growing up in that area. He-Man, you had Star Wars, Transformers, G.I. Joe, like that was, and Star Trek. Like there's so much that we were just, and you guys know, like from that time too, everything was great, but it all felt like it could go away because you couldn't just rewatch stuff if you missed an episode. I'd hear kids talking about like an episode of He-Man or an episode of G.I. Joe, and it's like, what happened? Wait, Dusty's a bad guy? Dusty's on Cobra? Yeah, you didn't see G.I. Joe yesterday? Dusty's a traitor. And I was like, no, that can't be right. And like, you don't think you're ever going to see it again, which may have been why like the VHS and DVD boom was so crazy, because people were like, I can finally get box sets of stuff. I can finally get this stuff. I've never thought I would see this again in my life. Give me everything. Like I've got the Master of the Universe DVDs box sets that they did when they first because I was like, I can't believe like, I had never seen every episode of He-Man. I probably caught it, like G.I. Joe. For years, I was trying to find episodes that I half remembered maybe existing, like Worlds Without End. I always knew, but like No Place Like Springfield. And there's this guy who was writing action figure reviews in this toy magazine that was coming out in like the late 90s. And it was like this black and white toy magazine. And he started reviewing G.I. Joe episodes. And he was like, if you have any questions, I can be reached here. So I just reached out to him, and he started he was like, okay. He's like, yeah, I know what episode you're talking about. I'll send you videotapes. So I still have VHS tapes of him. He's like, oh yeah, I think the episode you're talking about is this one. Cobra does this, blah, blah, blah. And to this day, like I have those VHS tapes. Anyways,
that's incredible.
Where are we going? Like, so Master of the Universe, yes, it was amazing. Like what Kevin Smith has done. I can't wait to finish watching it.
It's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to what he's going to do with part 2. So,
and I can't help think watching that. Why can't we do this, G.I. Joe?
Hey,
why can't?
There was one announced?
Yeah, there was a cartoon series announced.
Animated series announced.
Yeah, I don't know any of the details on it.
I don't think anybody does. I think 2022 or 23 is what I read.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of saying, hey, we're working on this.
Yeah, details are very very hush-hush and hard to come by. But it is a project that is in the works, which is great because, Transformers got something new. Masters of the Universe got something new. Even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Nickelodeon series, which was fantastic.
Really good.
So these old nostalgic intellectual properties are still getting these reboots or these fresh new looks for the new generation. And G.I. Joe, while they're still releasing toys, the Classified series is great. The Anniversary series have been great. There's nothing to go along with it to generate the interest in it other than people like us who feel nostalgic.
Yep.
That's why I think, these like Masters of the Universe just did a major series in 19 and 20, and now it's everywhere, right? So it was Walmart exclusive. Now it's everywhere. But there's something to go along with it. Oh, He-Man and Skeletor on pegs again. You walk into Target and you see this stuff, and it just feels good. But you want the longevity, so you got to. People like us are gonna, get older, or you don't want to continue to sell to the same people. You want a new generation to be pulling them off the pegs, looking at the box, playing with the toys, watching the cartoons. So G.I. Joe is the one that, to me, deserves it.
It keeps getting screwed over, and I mean, I couldn't agree more. And we got Renegades, which was a great little series. They did the Resolute movie, which kind of felt what this He-Man is. Yeah,
Resolute was great.
That was really good.
Yeah, and that took the stuff we loved and just kind of built upon it. And it didn't really do too much. Like, okay, we're just continuing now, and like Bazooka dies in it for some reason. Like, there's like weird. Anyways, yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, G.I. Joe does need to be revamped for like everything kept resetting. I remember when Transformers Generation 2 came out, and it was like, oh, okay, so they're bringing Transformers back. And then this was years and years ago. But then G.I. Joe's like kind of kept stumbling out the gate and they couldn't quite figure it out. And then Transformers just kept going and going, and Beast Wars did well. And then, of course, the Michael Bay movies, love them or hate them, that brought in a whole new era. And then Transformers were just everywhere, and that opened the door. The great thing about whether you like the Michael Bay movies or not, I don't. There's
first one's
the first
okay.
one I liked.
First one's okay.
yeah. I haven't gone back and rewatched it, but sure, if you like it, that's awesome. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, you're wrong, Mr. Burglar.
I'm not. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm no judging. No judging, because I like some people like, why do you like that? But it opened the door for more stuff. Like we got great Transformers like Generations, and they redid all the, like they made the figures that started coming out that looked like they looked in the old cartoons. And you're like, wow, these actually are good. They're not like a face behind a windshield like Ratchet and, Ironhide used to be. They actually look like they do. Anyway, so when it's a big thing like that, and I think that's what with G.I. Joe, we're getting classified and everything now, which are incredible. And I don't know if you've seen the reveals of the new ones they've announced for 2022 or the leaked names. So that got leaked today. Full Force, definitely check out that Joe podcast. It's a buddy of mine who actually produces beats on some of my records. And he had this scoop on his podcast just today. They're doing Crocmaster, they're doing Spirit, they're doing Tiger Force, all in classified. They're Outback. It's crazy. Like 2022 for Joe Classified looks phenomenal. They're going to put like Marvel Legends to shame, like in terms of scope of figures. It's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's because I think Hasbro was like, we've got this new film coming out. And so hopefully Snake Eyes, it's a tough time to release any movie right now.
Yes, it is.
So I haven't seen it. I know it's a different take than the one that I know, but we need a new take, and we'll always have the Larry Hama stuff. And we'll always have Welcome to Cobra Island. So, which is all just Larry and those guys, like me, like Larry and Christos Gage and everybody like whose stories influenced me for that album. So, anyways.
When I listen to the Letter from Snake Eyes, it's like I'm home again, because I'm like, I love this origin story so much. I won't talk about Snake Eyes at all, even though I really want to. I'm the Instagram guy. He's the Twitter guy. Hit me up on Instagram. We'll talk about it after you watch.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'll come back. I know I'm going over time here. You're letting me ramble.
Hey, that's okay.
Yeah. So let's do G.I. Joe then. Let's get on G.I. Joe. So Classified, you're good with.
Love it.
Okay, yeah, I like it too. Other than the fact they're hard to find.
Yeah,
I got Major Blood, and he was pretty hard to find. Joe actually got him for me, so I was kind of very happy about that.
I've seen none in the wild, and I am lucky that my friends have scored them for me, and especially during the pandemic, and I got a baby. Like, I'm not going to, we don't even have Target here, but shout out my buddies Kieran and Paul, who've just been like finding figures for me, and Sean, who've just been, so I've kind of got everybody that I wanted anyways. Like the Destro is incredible, might be my favorite Destro ever. Like that figure's crazy. Zartan's great. My only beef for the backpacks, they don't stay in. It's not like the old Joes, the backpack stayed in.
They did. Oh, yeah.
I got Snake Eyes in the window right there for the Classified. I lean him up against the window so the backpack stays in.
Well, my Zartan's the culprit. Every time I pick him up, his backpack falls. So maybe some are better than others, but
maybe.
Yeah.
So you said you don't have Target, but you do have Toys R Us.
We do.
Canada has.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have two. There's one in I think there's one in Windsor. I know that. Is there one in Toronto?
Yeah, there's a few. I'm not sure what's still open, but there was at least Toronto used to have tons, obviously, like everywhere. But yeah, there's still a couple kicking around.
They're all gone here. They're all gone.
There's one at Dufferin Mall in Toronto for anyone from Toronto listening.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, you guys know Dufferin Mall, right? It's not that far from Michigan. Yeah.
All the time. That's my favorite mall to go to.
Yeah, we take the long trip there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got that great bagel place. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's that lady who's always outside the lottery kiosk,
Crazy.
She's not. Yeah.
Jan. Good old Jan.
So you said G.I. Joe's your number one.
Yeah, GI Joe and comic books, like, but yeah, Joe. When we're talking about these properties, for sure, like Joe, and then Star Wars, I'd say.
Okay.
Okay.
My introduction to comic books was actually GI Joe because I had all the figures. We were at Perry Drugs at the time, and I looked on the spinner rack, and there was Snake Eyes on the cover, and I said, "Oh, what's this?" And that was my introduction to and I never looked back.
Not a bad introduction.
Not a bad introduction.
Not bad at all.
And it was the Marvel run is still my favorite run of comic books. Ever. I'm a huge Batman nut, but that GI Joe run was just so good, and the story for the character is just good. It was really good.
Yeah.
For any comic run, and I've read, like yourselves, so many comics, but Joe is like very unique in the fact that you do have one writer taking you through this incredible run in that original Marvel series and coming back to continue it years later. I mean, of course, there's like Chris Claremont did great runs, and John Byrne, of course, Kirby and Lee, and then like you go on and on and on, but so many people. But like Joe, especially in the 80s, like it's a solid run, at least that first 126 issues, and it sort of gets a little wonky, and then there's some anyways. But like the finale is one of the greatest last issues in any comic series ever. Like the final issue of GI Joe is incredible. It's called A Letter from Snake Eyes. Surprise. But yeah, it's such an amazing thing, and I'm glad that Larry's finally kind of getting his flowers, and just people are like actually being like, yeah, you were like arguably the top comic creator in the 80s in a decade of phenomenal comic creators. But GI Joe was outselling X-Men and Spider-Man, and like introducing kids. Like when you look at all the levels that GI Joe comic hit, while still just being a comic based on a toy line about little army figures, like what he did with that, and month after month, it kept us reading and like addicted, and it got me into reading more comics and just like going to, and that carried Marvel in so many ways, and that I think people are finally starting to realize, oh yeah, like X-Men was huge in the 80s, but GI Joe sold more. Like it's wild.
It was underappreciated by people who really didn't read it because they're just like, oh, it's G.I. Joe.
Right.
Like, you don't know, man.
No.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, it's really twofold. When you have it as a kid, it's cool. It was cool to have the comic to go with the figures. Oh, my figures are doing this. So you have the figures and you have the comic, and you can marry them as a kid, and you can do your own thing. Then going back and reading them after living a little bit more of your life, you can read and appreciate the material that's in there on a different level. It's so well done that even, kids are drawn into it for the figures, for the story, for the backstory, for the, the figures that they just got Toys R Us. I just got a new figure, and he's in this comic book, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And as an adult, I can appreciate the depth of like a Snake Eyes origin story, how deep the writing and how deep the storyline is, that for sure goes over a child's head.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he never talked down to you while making the stuff cool. And you've got the GI Joe. Remember the jugglers? Like they're those aren't action figures. Those are people who are like manipulating the military, for their own purposes. And there's political things, and it's like all this stuff is like that shouldn't be interesting, but it was like the jugglers were as big a threat to GI Joe as Cobra was. And there's like, you're like, I don't understand like the military industrial complex. I'm like 8 years old and just want to see more Recondo in the jungle.
You know that they're a bad guy, so you kind of know how they fit in the story. But Larry, being, a veteran and knowing so much and like he was like, I got to be true to this, but also understanding the balance of it being a toy line and everything. It's phenomenal what he did. And like the language he uses too, like Cobra Commander and Destro have such great speeches, and like the vocabulary, when you go back and read it, there's still words where it's like, I've never heard anyone use this word in anything ever. So, so I got to burgle that, but, but it's like, it's just phenomenal. I go on about Larry forever. And
he had to walk a hard line when he was writing that comic book. And I had to imagine Hasbro wanted to do certain things. Like when they actually finally killed Joe's off later in the 110s, I think it was. Like that was shocking, and I'm surprised Hasbro allowed it at that point. So
yeah,
he had a tough line to walk to trying to do what he wanted, trying to make it entertaining. The jugglers, he really had a fine line to walk.
yeah.
He pulled it off.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, and that death is like that was crazy. But I think again, he was just like, listen, and I've heard him talk about it in interviews. He said, I think he eventually told Hasbro, he's like, listen, we're doing a war comic. We need to show the other side.
Yeah.
There need to be casualties. And there's a special missions issue where a casualty dies, and he was never an action figure. Mangler, like, you know, a casualty, that's a casualty dies. That's yeah. But yeah, Mangler, like that's a great single issue, right? And that was like, whoa, Joe died. And like he never had a figure. So I always thought, oh man, he didn't get a figure because he died.
He died.
Yeah.
Doc was one of the first figures I got. And then I read that and I just look around and no one's around. My dog's looking at me like, you're crazy. And I'm like, I just felt like I lost a family member.
All right.
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a crazy issue. The Saw Viper. Yeah.
Yeah. Saw Viper was a psycho.
Yeah.
I think anybody listening who doesn't know what we're talking about is like, what are you talking about? Go read it.
That's me a little bit because I wasn't a G.I. Joe guy, so I'm glazing over a little bit over here. But I know it's something great that I need to get into, but it's very intimidating.
We don't like them.
Yeah. They don't.
It's not like 7 seasons of Star Trek or something.
No.
That's not intimidating at all.
I know.
Well, it doesn't get good till Worf joins, but no, I'm kidding.
So Star Trek.
I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding.
Did you mention your second favorite thing is Star Wars? Did I hear that?
Oh yeah, wrong podcast. Sorry.
No, you're on the right podcast.
Actually,
No, you're on the right podcast. I'm a huge Star Wars guy and I'm a Star Trek. You can be both.
I love Star Wars. I mean, again, like, yeah, I used to play Star Wars and G.I. Joe a lot with like my older cousin, and we were just like, and the G.I. Joe and Star Wars, the figures were the same size, they fit in the same vehicles, and it was just like more fun. I love it all. I mean, there's certain aspects of Star Trek that I watch. It's like, oh, this is just a warm blanket. You know, I just want to hear that bridge hum on the Next Generation. It's like, put me to, you know, Earl Grey hot. And I'm just like, I'm all good. Yeah. But yeah, Star Wars, of course. Like, we're going to have to obviously do a series of podcasts now.
Yeah, I know, right?
So we're both additionally Star Wars people.
Yeah.
As well as Star Trek. But Rob,
I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan.
I would say my Star Wars knowledge is probably deeper than my Star Trek knowledge. And I've done all the Star Treks.
Same. Huh?
Yeah. Well, you have not done all the Star Treks, no. So yeah.
I certainly know Star Wars way better than Star Trek, for sure.
Yeah. So obviously you like Next Generation because Picard maneuver. That's a deep cut if you don't know the series. So Star Trek, Next Generation, DS9, what's your familiarity?
Yeah, like TNG, you know, probably that was the first era of that. I used to watch the old Star Treks whenever they were on, and then like the original series. And yeah, TNG, like being there, watching Picard. So that's got a soft spot for in my heart. But I watched Deep Space Nine, I watched Voyager, still watch, you know, I watched everything of like Discovery. I haven't watched Lower Decks yet, but my friend Addison's actually an animator on it. Lower Decks.
Really?
Yeah.
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. So I haven't seen that yet, but shout out Addison, who's good. She's incredibly talented and was animating that show. But Discovery I like.
Thank you.
I don't know. It's funny. Deep Space Nine coming on here. Yeah, I know Discovery's got some. And Picard, I watched the new Picard, you know, it was like, great. I was happy. It was fine.
It was okay.
I don't know what I expected, but I also thought I'd never see it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's.
Maybe that's what it is. I went in with my expectations way too high, and I should have just been happy that I got anything, right? Because it was pretty solid. It was a great character study of Picard, and I should have appreciated that.
Yeah.
Riker making pizza? Come on. That was kind of fun.
That was the best episode of the first season.
Yes, it was.
By far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this podcast started as a joke between Nick and I. We were said he didn't much care for.
I didn't really like Deep Space Nine. I was a Next Generation guy and a Voyager guy. Like, I would pick Voyager over Deep Space Nine at that point in time. Yeah,
so I'm a big DS9 guy. I love Next Generation. I grew up on it like you. And the original series, but DS9 was just that was mine, and so we started joking about it because I said he had terrible taste, that kind of thing.
True.
And we said we should do a podcast, and here we are.
That's amazing.
And thousands of dollars later.
You guys need to do like just another like geeks culture thing, because like your knowledge base here is crazy. So
Yes, we do have
like on top of the Cardassian, because I'm just been here so long, we barely talked Cardassians, but
Well,
it's great.
We're finally here.
Yeah,
This is amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
It is really good. So, Picard's your guy. Do you have a favorite episode of The Next Generation?
Oh,
Tough.
it's probably an easy choice, but Measure of a Man.
That's a good one.
That is a really good one.
It's just a real like. Over the years, it's, you know, you go back to a handful. It's like, I've seen all these. I'm going to go back. And then like one that just kind of keeps, it's like poignant. It's well written. It makes sense. It's like, I love Data. I think that's a great, and it's standalone. It's just a one-parter. Of course, like I love the Borg crossovers, like as things start to get crazy later on. I love anything with Q. I don't know. There's so much great stuff. I mean, I love anything with Deanna Troi, let's be honest.
Very honest answer.
But hey, I'm an honest guy. What can I say? But yeah, I think Measure of a Man, that's the first one that pops to my head, and I can stand behind that one. That's a great episode.
I definitely understand the Troy thing, because I have the same appreciation for Jadzia in Deep Space Nine.
Sure.
Yeah.
So she's up there.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, on Saturday we're going to be interviewing Nana Visitor as well for our podcast. So
I saw you guys mention that. That's phenomenal.
We don't even know why she agreed to come on, so we're pretty happy.
About it.
Wow. Well, Kira is one of the great characters for sure in Star Trek, and that's, you guys must be so honored. Like that is so cool.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you were to ask her any question, Nana Visitor, what would you ask her about, about Star Trek or whatever it may be?
Look at Nick burgling questions from the burglar himself.
Yes.
Okay. So here's something that I was thinking about when you guys asked me to come on here. And for whatever reason, to this day, when I think Cardassians, first thing that pops into my head, other than Star Trek, is being a kid, I really wanted, Shreddy's cereal. This is going to sound so dumb. I don't even know if you had it. Do you have Shreddy's?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay. Shreddy's is a cereal we had in Canada. Yeah. We have to this day. I still eat it.
Okay.
They had a promotion one year for Star Trek Deep Space Nine stamps, and they were heads. And it was like, there was a Cardassian, and I wanted that Cardassian. And there was Kira, and then there was, I think, Quark.
Yeah.
And then there was Odo.
Okay.
And I wanted the Cardassian one really bad. I would have loved the Kira one, but I got Odo. And then I got another Odo. Then I got another Odo. And my parents were like, you got to finish the cereal. And then they stopped doing the promotion. And then like my friend got an Odo too. So I was like going through life thinking the only stamps you could get from Shreddy's were Odo. They didn't have the other three. Cisco didn't even get one.
Yeah, right.
So I just had the Odo head stamp, and I stamped a lot of stuff. This is a real thing. I'm not crazy. Anyways, there was a Cardassian head. And so I guess my question would be, does she have the Kira stamp? Because I'm going to try and get a complete set.
We're going to have to ask her that.
Yeah, I think she might look at us like we're crazy, but we're game.
Is she aware that a Canadian cereal made a stamp with her head on it? It was just the head. It was like the Futurama heads. Like it was just a head, and then the bottom was like just a stamp. And I didn't even think till now that it might have been a Canadian exclusive.
Yeah,
so
I don't recall a lot of cereal.
That.
Yeah. I think I have a theory on why you only got Odos, though. I think you got the entire series, and he shapeshifted into himself
each time.
Boom.
Like, best possible answer.
Like what are the
virtual high five?
Only getting Odo.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And from that day on, I hated Odo. Every time I saw him on screen, I would taste Shreddies. I was like,
So what kind of cereal is this?
It's actually pretty decent. It's basic. They're just these like wheat squares. We really are covering everything, aren't we?
Are they frosted? Are they
No,
frosted?
no,
So
they're
it's not like frosted
unfrosted.
mini wheats or anything?
They're like
I think they're good. They're high in like riboflavin or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Riboflavin. How do you say
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Sounds.
I got a
don't know.
high riboflavin diet.
There you go. Thiamine, riboflavin.
It's all very important to me.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
those bad.
If I can't pronounce it, I'm putting it in my diet.
Yeah,
That's-
exactly.
It's got to be good for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe there's a there's your question.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that stamp for you.
Yeah, we're
The
gonna
neat-
get you that stamp. Yeah.
Oh man, I want that Cardassian head.
Yeah, right.
Oh god.
When was the last time you gave DS9 a chance?
Oh, it's been years. Like
That's what I figured.
I felt bad. I was like, oh, I haven't rewatched it. Like I watched them when they were on, and like I say, I really did like when Worf showed up. But I loved I thought it was really good. And it's funny going back, like you catch the odd episode over the years. It's so well written, and the actors it's got a weight to it that I feel was kind of like. The Next Generation, of course, as it got on, like there was the acting was so great in all of them in all this series, and they were like the writing would just take on this like weight, like we talk about Measure of Man and Next Generation. But I remember Deep Space Nine being like it just felt kind of heavier, and in like I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that still applies to it, but
No, I agree with you. And actually, when you were talking about GI Joe, how you can go back and reread these things, and they're talking about some really deep things like the industrial military complex and all these other issues, right? That's what Deep Space Nine I think does really well. Is it talks about these really deep, dark issues that Star Trek never approached before, which is probably why it wasn't so popular, right? Because people wanted their Star Trek happy and rainbows and gumdrops and butterflies, but that's not what they got with Deep Space Nine.
and that's truly why it was Deep
Yeah.
Space Nine.
Yeah.
No,
It is
Oh, yeah.
It
I
is
mean,
very-
no, we're coming to that. We're really breaking some ground here
You're
tonight,
really-
guys.
Oh,
Wow.
the adjunct professor of burglary. There we go. I love it. Yeah.
It is really the thinking person's Trek.
It is a thinking
Like the
person.
philosophical
Yeah.
Trek.
Yeah, especially if you put Deep Space Nine up to Discovery now. Personally, I like Discovery a lot. I find it very enjoyable. It's very different than what Star Trek was. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because just like your music has evolved over the years, so too has Star Trek. It evolves with the times. And that's an okay thing. So like where you stop swearing, Star Trek has now added swearing into the show. It's just a big difference.
The universe has to balance.
It has
so
to balance out.
Wordburglar drops the swears, and Star Trek said,
Yeah.
we'll pick up the
We
slack.
gotta put an F-bomb in here.
Yeah, we got to swear Picard.
Yeah, we gotta do it. Yeah.
That did cause a stink, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I
did.
remember listening to that going, what just happened?
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Some of my friends were very adamant against it because I like when I first started watching Discovery. I was like, "Oh, I like this. It's different. It's like
Feels
it's cool. I'm
real.
getting into it." I liked actually the twist at the end and everything, and there was like some of season one, and it was cool. Some weird stuff, definitely.
Yes.
With the Klingons and some strangeness.
Strange
Yep.
choices, strange design choices.
Design
right?
choices, and I never thought I'd see a Klingon sex scene. That was weird.
Yeah, but you look at the
Oddly
landscape.
interesting.
Like, what are they competing with, right? You got Game of Thrones, you got Walking Dead. Like when Discovery came out, like you're competing. Like when you're looking at the big genre shows today,
Yeah.
like if you need to make an imprint, especially on these new fan bases, you got teenagers and, I mean, look, we were kids watching like Next Generation, but it's like, what are you competing at? And I know kids are watching Walking Dead now. Maybe they shouldn't be, but,
They are, yeah.
but like, that's kind of what it's like. Sorry, Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, like you go to San Diego Comic-Con or any of these things, like these are the huge, big shows.
Right.
If Star Trek needs to get an in, I guess they felt they needed to do that a little bit
Right.
with Discovery maybe. And, I mean, Star Wars has maintained like a certain great level, and maybe that's the Disney-ification of it. But, I love that. So, yeah, I like Discovery. But anyways, sorry.
No,
No,
that's fine.
yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
We're Star Trek people, but we get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
we get it.
I'm both, man.
Yeah,
I'm both.
Hey, stop trying to.
Yeah,
Hey.
don't box me into a corner.
Yeah.
Don't put baby.
Star Trek taught us to be bold.
Yeah,
That's right.
Exactly.
Bold and open-minded.
Yes,
But
exactly.
you're doing
Boldly
you're
go,
doing
my
the
friends.
Bold and closed-minded.
Yeah.
You gotta- No, but
They just added a bit of the beautiful to the boldly go and boldly
Yeah.
go the
Right.
beautiful.
boldly and beautifully go wherever you tell us to go. Apparently,
Yeah,
Actually, Star Trek's always been beautiful too. So
Yep.
yeah.
you mentioned Voyager. I find that music I have a rhyme about it, but
Oh
it's
my gosh.
it's Aw Shucks Like Oysters. My favorite Star Trek theme song is Voyagers.
Yeah.
And that's like that opening music. I almost like get a tear in my eye when I
It
hear
is a very
Voyager.
great score for that.
Yeah, it was.
It's
huge
beautiful,
score.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the traveling over the Saturn and everything like
Yep.
that, going through the rings. Oh, it was
Yeah,
incredible.
it's beautiful.
Beautiful opening sequence. For
More of the
Voyager.
story. We need a Cisco reference in a rhyme, though.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, it's just, well, my buddy more or less is a huge Star Trek fan too, and so Picard Maneuver he started. He's on
Okay.
so he's a big Star Trek guy, and I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like Deep Space Nine might be his favorite. So he,
Yeah.
you
If
might
it
want
is,
to talk to Les. Yeah,
I might have
Yeah.
to talk to him.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's big, and yeah, because that song started with him. And he's got, if you're into Doctor Who, he has a whole album about Doctor Who.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so more or less is an old friend and partner of mine. We make tons of music together, working on tons of stuff, and he's the best. He's the best guy, and he's equally nerdy, and he loves his Star Trek as well. So
My man, I like him
Right.
already.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
either of you can work Garrick into a song,
This guy,
I love Garrick.
this guy loves Garrick. That's his
my
favorite part.
My favorite character.
Oh dear.
I got a crush. I got
That's
a
amazing.
crush on a
That's
Cardassian.
okay. That's okay. You can.
Well, I like Durg, the Markalian.
Yeah.
Probably you can guess why.
I can't.
You rhyme it?
Well, Durg rhymes with Berg,
Oh,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
it's played by Cobra Commander.
Is it?
Christopher Collins, aka Chris
Really?
Latta, the voice of Starscream and Cobra Commander.
I
Yeah,
didn't
he's
realize
on he's in
Oh.
he plays a Klingon a few times in TNG, and he's on Deep Space Nine, I want to say at least 2 or 3 times.
Oh, you just,
You just blew my mind.
There's another G.I. Joe connection. It all comes back to G.I. Joe on this
Yes,
podcast.
sir.
Clearly, even when we finally get to Star Trek.
I know.
Michael Bell, who's Duke on the G.I. Joe cartoon, he's on Deep Space Nine, and he's in a TNG episode. He's in I know he's in Encounter at Farpoint on first Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine. Oh, I don't remember what his name is.
It's Google is a phone away, so we're good.
Anyways,
But you
Michael
blew my
Bell,
mind
who
up.
is Duke. So you got Duke and Cobra Commander, both had roles in Star
I
Trek
had
shows,
no
Deep
idea.
Space Nine and Next Generation. So, bam.
I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know that.
I think this is a perfect wraparound though to kind of tie things up today.
We're
Right?
gonna ask one more question.
You got one more question.
One more question.
That's it. You got one more. That's it. 'Cause
And-
we've kept Mr. Burglar a long
Yeah,
time.
and we apologize, but we'll talk your ear
Hey
off.
guys, I'm having a blast,
Okay,
and
good.
I just want to thank you. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for inviting me here, and this is awesome. And I really appreciate the support, and I love what you guys are doing. Despite me not rewatching Deep Space Nine in years, but I think it's amazing. And honestly, it's a total pleasure to be here. And thanks for letting me ramble on about all this
Absolutely.
absurd
Thank
nerdity
you.
that
Thank
we
you.
all love.
literally,
Anytime.
literally anytime.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but one question we'd like to ask on the show. It's a very important question. What's your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh gosh.
Oh, good.
This
You know
can get
what?
heated. This can get heated. I
You
gotta
know what?
warn you.
Oh, gosh.
I think it's a good thing you're asking this because I usually ask the pizza questions, but I feel like I just
Here's an important thing I'm going to do. I'm muting Joe. There we go. All right. Go ahead.
Now, when you say that, we talking toppings, but I know I'm talking to some people who might know some Detroit style pizza. So that's what I'm wondering. We talking Detroit versus
we're talking,
Chicago? We talking
style, toppings, whatever.
What pops
Yeah.
in your head?
Yeah,
If you had to, name your perfect pizza. What
yeah. You're
is
going
it?
out. You're going out to get pizza. You want your best. What are you getting?
Don't say-
man.
I know, right?
There's so many different kinds, and I love pizza. Like
Amen.
deep dish, wood fired, Detroit
Yep.
style, Chicago style. Classic cheesy crust, meat in the crust. My go-to toppings are easy. I love my classic go-to. If I'm in charge of toppings and I get anything I want, simple, but I love it. Pepperoni, onions, green olive. That's like my triple threat. I love that. Bam, salty. If the sauce is a little bit sweet, Oh, that's so good. I like the cheese like a little bit broiled, but still
Yep.
gooey. Like that's like,
Yeah.
oh, good.
Mm.
Yeah.
You want the dough, you want that dough to have integrity.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
want it to be super sloppy,
Right.
but I don't want it like cardboard. So that's like you got to find that like nice, even
Sweet spot.
thing, sweet spot. So kind of like a medium crust. I do love deep dish, but sometimes like some of the deep dish stuff can just be too bready.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I want to enjoy the toppings. I want to enjoy the whole party. So if I want bread, I'll just get a focaccia, One place in particular, my wife makes sourdough crust pizza in a
Nice.
variety of ways, which is phenomenal. It's probably she
Yeah.
probably won't listen to this podcast, but I'm still gonna say it's probably my favorite pizza these days,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
Awesome.
it
Rock on.
is. So yeah,
Nice.
shout out my wife's homemade sourdough pizza,
All right.
especially when I get to pick the toppings.
There you
Yep,
go.
yep.
There you go.
So on that note, I wanted to go back to the last thing. You said you got a few albums, a few projects you're working on. Now, now that things maybe outside of Canada are opening up a little bit more and they're kind of, letting people loose a little bit, do you have any plans to go back out and perform? Do you have anything like on the horizon to tour? Because I would love to see you live, and being so close, I think Detroit would be a great stop. But
That's a hint.
yeah, but
Oh yeah,
do
man.
you have anything like on the horizon, or anything that you're maybe looking forward to doing on the road?
Well, right now it seems too early. It's crazy though.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic hit, I had been pretty much steadily touring for years and years. Like I think the last 2 or 3 years right up to the pandemic, I was touring more than ever. And I got to the States a bunch. I drove through Michigan, but I didn't have any shows booked, or I didn't get to play Detroit. But I think right before I was in like Ohio and Seattle and New York and Tennessee. And I was kind of like all over weird pockets, just like Carmen Sandiego strange. But yes, I will definitely return to touring, hopefully when it's safe to. The only show I have booked right now is for like 2022, and that's in Montreal. That's the first like confirmed. Live venues still aren't really open here, at least, unless you're like Drake or something, but I don't even know what Drake's doing. Like they're booking stuff starting to open up a bit, and I'll definitely be doing as soon as things are able, because Les and I were mentioned more or less, we run a monthly or semi-monthly rap show in Toronto called the $5 Rap Show. So we were doing that. We were actually getting ready to celebrate our 10th anniversary of doing this, and it's basically like an underground rap show, $5, old school. We bring in great artists and from America and Canada and all over. And it's a great night. So if you're like people, it's a great destination if you're coming to Toronto to just want to check out a cool underground hip hop show in Kensington Market, which is a really great little area. But I mean, Detroit, the rap scene in Detroit's out of control. It's so good. Like there's so many, like the hip hop scene in Detroit, like I'm always hearing great stuff. There's like Apollo, do you know Apollo Brown? And like, there's just like great, like so many MCs. Like he put out that, record last year. I think it was Sincerely Detroit or Detroit. Like he did a whole album showcasing kind of like this great collection of Detroit rappers all over his beats. And I got a lot of love. I'm actually working with a couple people from the Detroit area. And shout out like Mark Cooper, who's around Detroit. And like, so I'd obviously love to get to Detroit. And, the rap scene there is so close to Toronto.
It's a couple hours, right? You're 4 hours.
4 hours, I think, isn't it?
Drive?
Yeah. And there's like a nerd convection, right?
We got a couple of them. They got the
Motor
City Comic Con.
Motor City Comic Con, yeah. And was there like a video game event or something?
There
was MagFest or like somebody invited me to do a show in Detroit, and it was like I think it was like video game themed.
There was like a Michigan, like a Michigan video game collectors, or maybe it was like retro video game themed, but I don't know. It got canceled obviously last year,
right?
And I don't know I don't know what their plans are for it. if they're doing it in 21 or if they're waiting for 22 to come around.
Yeah.
And I know that they just started that either a couple years ago or it's very new. But I was looking forward to. I was actually going to go to that in 2020.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, I mean, let's all just stay safe and smart and help each other get healthy, and hopefully we can all hang out again, right?
Yeah,
like
that's
that's
out there,
Yeah.
Everybody be smart so we can go see Wordburglar live. Please.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just settle down.
Yeah, I'm hoping, like, I got new albums cooking, like I got tons and tons of new stuff that I'm really excited to release, and it'd be nice to release it at a live event. So like that's kind of what I'm like hoping to do. So you know, we'll see what happens. So but thank you, and it'd be great to meet you guys in person for sure.
Excellent. I think
no, that's it. Well, I think I'm gonna stop hitting the record button here. I'm gonna turn it off. But thanks so much for coming here, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was fantastic.
It's a pleasure. Oh, amazing. Amazing. I'll have to send you some of the new stickers too. We got some. And I never finished that story, so sorry the tech issue. Bottom line is I got mad at the guy because he wanted me to buy the Spawn comics that weren't on my pull list. And I walked out and said, I'm never shopping here again. And I didn't.
That's true.
Well, there you go.
And I was like 15. So
it's a minute ago.
Yeah, it was a minute ago. Yeah.
Look at those ideals, right? Stand your ground.
Hell
yeah. Yeah, gotta love it.
He's a man of his word, burglar.
Yeah.
Awful. I gotta get it out. Even the bad
exactly. Gotta get the bad puns out.
All right.
Love it. I love it.
Well, I'm gonna hit the stop record button now.
And then
Here we go.
Damage control reports, all stations.
You need damage control.
Hi, superheroes. Everything okay? Well, I was building girders till my skills on this earth were tilted further by the Silver Surfer. Turned a burglar to a civil server. Thrilling work, sure, I know they save kids, but who they think's cleaning up all this bridge? Cletus Cassidy carnage at Carnegie Hall, or Blastar the bomb burst, car bomb in a mall. I'm charging them all like Gambit's credit cards, handling damage like slamming the record stars.
Fantastic. Reading Sue, split the street in two, defeating humans trying to evil do. Tell them we the cleanup crew, damage control, it's grim. I seen a thing or two, it's clobbering time. When stopping crime gets broken like the hobgoblin's mind. When the weapons go blam blam, we deal with it all, big and small like Ant-Man. If Jean-Way gets carried away, it's safe to say she gonna pay the bill, worth to pay the way.
Hey, what can I say? It's just another day at work. Want tough? You should see our Secret Wars paperwork. Herbs make damage, we manage the task. When Atlantis attacks, or Namor's planning a bath. Yeah, Patsy Walker the sleepwalker. Even Peter Parker needs a partner after he beats Shocker. But sweeping the meat locker of a Marvel zombie will leave your face whiter than Moon Knight's laundry.
Bam on the boom, bam! Oh, man!
Might have seen behind the scenes, working harder than trying to find the Hulk size of jeans. In times of need, who you gonna call when the sky falls? We always open, like the Watcher's eyeballs.
They need new security in the Sandwich Land.
Sounds worse than when Angar had a band. Damn, can't lose my undershirt if you're uninsured. You'd have better luck invoicing the Punisher.
When they warring with the Hulks and they brawling with the Caps. When they leave dents and cracks and the monuments collapse. Super villains out for loot, they shoot and blast the entrance. We pick up pieces from their random acts of vengeance. Yo, tensions high, as Shatari pour on portals in the sky. Collide with buildings, mortals mortified and forced to hide. Maybe it's doom, envy tombs are killmonger. I really wish these towers were built stronger.
We build longer hours, but leave it to a novice and be out of business if Galactus sits on your office. We got this. We'll clean, control, clear them faster than Jarvis on some super soldier serum. From the Shi'ar Imperium to Yancey Street in no time, like